Let me guess. About like 2015, all these fucking Thelemite camps suddenly had like civil wars going on because they all went super in on like one direction of politics or the other. Is that a thing? I feel like that was probably a thing.
I feel like it was later than 2015. I think it was more like 2017 or 18 where it
Yeah.
started, but it might have been seeded earlier than that. But yeah, there's a lot of issues right now within the OTO. Like just recently, they did a thing where like it used to be, if you were, you have like your magical title, like Crowley was Frater Perturabo, uh, and there's if you're a lady, you're Soror, like Phyllis Seckler was Soror Merrill. Anyway, that's how that works. But just recently they said, "Oh, we're doing away with the freighter and the soarer titles, and we're not going to have any gendered
Oh
titles." And
my
now it's all
god.
just now
Oh
it's I
boy.
think it's like Stelle or something like that. I can't remember what it is now, but it's basically like the name for a star. But it was just like it's like those memes where it's like no one
Super
semicolon
cringe.
and then like nobody's asking, nobody's saying anything, nobody's complaining, and then they're just like in response to nothing at all whatsoever. We're making this big massive change to how we've done things for the last 100 years.
Well, who
And it
is
was
the authority that decides something like that?
apparently it was the guy who's the head of the OTO right now. Um, Hieronymus Beta is his title,
Does
but
Well,
he does he claim to
what?
be just is he just a man or is he supposed to be guided by fucking Iwas or whatever the fuck?
uh, everybody's supposedly
What?
guided by their own HGA at
What?
that point, but he's just a
What's
man of the people.
what's stopping somebody from usurping his punk ass?
Just it's bureaucracy, honestly. It's just like it's no
What
different than
measures are in place from stopping me from taking control of this?
For just giving him
at
a
that level
wedgie?
it's at that level it's no different than like the higher levels of
Put him in a
Freemasonry,
headlock and give him
or
a
it's just
neggy.
like
Yeah.
it's just the bureaucracy of a nonprofit, and like they literally have a chairman of like a board of directors or whatever, and titles and all that, and voting, and I don't think there is just usurping. I think everything has to be voted on, and it's all bureaucracy and red tape and shit. So
That's my issue
So
with
like
like all modern religion is all of that hierarchy and bureaucracy. Because to me, it's either like you have an establishment that is like supposedly guided by God Himself, or like no establishment at all. In my mind,
well, and
that's
what's
how it should
ironic
work.
is that was supposedly what the Golden Dawn was, but then Crowley came in and shook everything up and changed it all, and that's where the OTO took the course that it turned, and now it's kind of just the same thing that the Golden Dawn was back when Crowley changed it. So it has ironically become itself an old, outdated system of dudes trying to do a bunch of bad ritual
to
with
flex on each other.
that's like diluted for the
It
masses,
almost
basically, when it
turns into
really
fucking like the Church of Satan. That's what it sounds like
eh,
now.
without a lot of the commercialism, but yeah. Like I do appreciate that a lot of the organizational efforts go towards publishing, and it's not a lot of pomp and circumstance fundraiser type bullshit. Like I don't know, I think the money goes to the right places. It's all just gotten too big for itself, and I think they just need to give more power to the individual lodges. But then the good thing about Thelema is there's nothing that says I can't start a lodge if I want. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to be recognized by whatever, but then if I don't recognize their authority in the first place, then I don't care if they recognize me.
Are
And
Yeah.
are there like people who proclaim atheism who are into this stuff?
hmm,
Because I
I'm
figure it's
sure.
too close to like masonry, where you have to believe in God. So I figure there's some of that feeling.
You can be an atheist and be a Thelemite, really, because if you just think of it all as
Your will.
metaphors. Yeah, it's just your will and everything else is metaphors. But then I don't know. I guess part of it's really believing in the universe. So I don't personally know of any atheist Thelemites, but I'm sure they're out there in one form or another.
Jugs, how much do you know about Thelema and Crowley and that whole?
I don't know a lot about it at all, honestly. It's not really my cup of
I don't
tea.
like most
Yeah,
Thelemites.
I mean, that's like I am like a Protestant at heart. No matter what we're talking about, even if we're talking about like New Agey occult crap. Like I
You're a
do
I
heretic.
not.
went. I
Yeah,
went
I just
to
don't
a.
want a hierarchy. I don't want anyone over me.
I went to an OTO Gnostic mass in Portland, Oregon, and it was pretty cringe. Like I get it and I
Yeah.
get the
Well,
art behind it, but then
tell us why was it?
um just whenever you have that many people involved and it's like It can't just be
It's
one
really
person's
having a
vision.
moment right now too. Like I've seen a bunch of like TikTok witches that are, with their Crowley.
And it's
TikTok.
weird because right now the OTO is like not having any meetings, and they haven't had any in-person meetings for over a year now, because they were like right when the pandemic started, they're like, okay, no more Gnostic Mass, no more in-person anything until
That's
we
so
say.
gay.
So there's been no in-person like official Thelemic anything for a
When
long
even
time.
like the shitty little Christian church down the road that I would never go to is like, fuck it, fuck the cops, we're having fucking church.
Yeah.
And like the fucking
Yeah,
Thelemites
and that-
can't do
and
that.
that-
Come on.
that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, me included, because I had plans. Like I moved back here like about March of last year, whenever the pandemic stuff got all like hot and heavy. But part of the reason I came back here is because it's a 4-hour train ride from Chicago, and I was going to start planning to go like once every couple months to go to the Gnostic Mass up there. And I've been emailing them back and forth and everything, and then it was all of a sudden just like, oh no, we're not doing anything. We'll let you know when we are again. And I'm just like, okay, well, I guess fuck me for moving back in here and have that be part of my plans.
Well, what have you been
'Cause
doing?
I
What have you been
well,
doing
I
like
did have-
lately by yourself then?
well, I did have a job where I traveled. I think I told you guys, like I would just be in a different place every 3 months,
Mhm.
and it was really good money, but it was just like real solo and everything. And then like a year and a half ago, I was like, man, I'm tired of moving around all the time and being away from everybody, so I'm gonna go back to where I'm from, and I'm gonna get an apartment and like connect with everybody and start doing social stuff again and kind of like be less of an introvert. And then like clockwork, as soon as I got back here, everything's closed. No one's doing anything. So it's like anyway, yeah, so I've just been solo. I've been trying to learn more stuff. Like I'm doing that astrology workbook. But I'm also like trying not to do like 100% magic stuff. Like I realized like, wow, this shouldn't be like all of my hobbies. So I've kind of been doing more music stuff. I think I talked to you before when I was playing guitar a little bit, and now I'm playing a little bit of piano.
Cool.
So I kind of try to practice that some.
You start to
that's
realize that
been
you can
fun.
apply all the magic and the occult stuff to easily to other forms of art because it's all storytelling.
Yeah.
And that's
And
that's
it's
what
funny
magic
because
is.
when you talk to most people who are seriously into the occult, most of them are artists in some way. Like when it comes to music, like physical drawing, whatever, sculpting, like almost all of them, 100% are into some kind of artwork, or they're at least dabbling. I'm not saying they're going to be good at it or they're going to be, an aficionado or savant, but everybody that I've met has some kind of interest in art, and that's really interesting. And I also find that most artists are really like famous musicians and famous artists, like genre artists, are kind of drawn to the occult too.
Oh, obviously,
because
yeah.
it's a
Oh,
way,
yeah.
Sure.
it's good psychology to kind of help direct your work. And then on that note, again, I find that when you look at someone like David Bowie or whoever, like those big famous super mega stars, like they sing and they play instruments, but they usually also draw and do some kind of other art, and they usually have like 3 or 4 other mediums that they regularly produce art in. Despite being known for just one thing. It's like Jack White upholsters furniture just as
Yeah.
kind of a hobby, but he's been doing that as long as he's been playing music, and it's just kind of bizarre how artists are, and the artist brain, but then how artists are also really susceptible to addiction in that
Yeah.
same way, because
Yeah.
it's like
There's a
instant
tendency
gratification, I
toward
guess.
the extreme. Like when you start
Yeah.
recognizing your power, you take it too goddamn far. I think that we all go through that.
Yeah,
Right.
that's for sure. Yeah, and that's part of like the hero's journey cycle.
Yeah, I think one thing a lot of people don't realize about me is that I started out like magic and shaman posting. That's how I began shit posting, like on Facebook and everything in like 2014, 2015. But the thing is, like, I don't do that so much anymore. But it's not that I've given up any of that. It's like
Yeah.
it's there all the time. It doesn't have to be expressly done. Like all of the fucking podcasts I've done, I think everything, all of the little projects I've helped with, my website yakovalive.com. That's like part of it. I'm trying to use my will to shape the world around me. It's magic.
hard for me to make any one thing like my focus. Like I have this like little magic shop in the next town over, and they're always wanting me to go and like do rune readings and tarot readings for money, and it's like I don't really want to be like a tarot reader for hire. Like
Right.
I just don't want to. Not that I have anything against that, but I
You make
think that's kind of
really
like,
good money, but
but it's just kind of like entertainment. I feel like you're just
That's it.
entertaining
There-
and you're telling somebody what they want to hear.
There's a reason
sure.
the stage magician doesn't tell people his tricks. It's because when you tell people your trick, it loses its power. And then being overtly into the occult and all of that, that loses a little bit of power with people because they see that you're
Right,
trying to do
and I
something.
feel like the more that I do it with somebody and I see their reaction, like, oh, this is bullshit. Like, I don't want them to degrade my own
Yes.
feeling of it. But like, I'm more into runes than tarot anyway, and I have people all the time who tell me like, oh, this could be a bread and butter because no one knows what runes are, and that could be like a big way to grasp people. But then it's like, yeah, but I don't want to like put on a costume and go go down to the local open mic and
right.
be like, ooh, does anybody want their runes read from the local wizard? And I don't want to like become a character because I feel like that's when it just starts to become inauthentic. Like if
That's
people want to
why-
come to me, that's different.
That's why I originally started learning to do birth charts, because I kind of like sold out a little bit because I was working at like a little witchy shop, and we had a tarot reader who got into a really big fight with the owner and then like tried to hex her or something. There was some drama, some witch drama. It was
A wizard battle.
interesting. Yeah, something
But
like that. It was-
doing birth
Just
charts, I
shooting
can
mind
totally
bolts
I
throughout
can get
the-
behind doing birth charts because that's more like here's the blueprints, now do it yourself.
Yeah.
right.
You know, that's not really like
Ju-
divining.
That's
anything
exactly.
from
Somebody
anyone.
has to help
True, yeah.
themselves. It doesn't stop at just you telling them what the chart means. They have to help
Yeah, and
themselves.
there
were,
in
like,
there.
explain
There's not
the
a lot
birth
of
chart.
people in the
Yeah.
area that do birth. Like, there's a ton of tarot readers. There's a few, but not many. Like people that do rune readings.
Well, like Yakov said before, with charts, it's math, and then
Yeah.
that's daunting.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but that's the thing. That's why I'm always like drawn more to tarot because it's all intuition. Whereas
Well, it's a lot of pattern recognition too, and
Mhm.
a lot
Yeah.
of like logic, and
yes,
I mean not so much math, but
can you explain the pattern recognition a little bit? I'd like to hear more of that.
just like the numbers and the suits. You know, like you have your coins, you have coin/pinnacles, and then you have your cups, and then you have your wands, and you have your swords. So those are the four suits of the tarot, kind of like how you have diamonds and hearts and clovers and all that, or clubs or whatever, in a regular playing card. And then you have the 1, the 2, and the 3, and the 4, and so on. And then the knight and the page and the king and the queen of all those different suits. And then like the way to uncode or decode all the cards is to see like, well, all the sevens all mean vaguely the same theme, and like any 4, no matter what suit it is, like it means this theme. And I don't know tarot enough, and I don't have my book with me to tell you what they are, but like a one of something is like a beginning, and then like a 5 is, I think, like a completion of a stage, and then it goes on like that. And then so that's kind of just a way to, and then you understand like, okay, well then if it's a sword, that's air element, and that has to do
Right.
with the mind and logic. And then if it's a wand, that's the fire element. So then you just kind of put together like, okay, so it's a 7 of wands, so that's whatever sevens mean, and then it has to do with emotion and fire and creativity, or so on. So that's kind of what I mean by just seeing the patterns of the numbers and the suits and the themes.
Yeah, and I mean, ultimately, you have to try to tell a story with the cards, right? That's the idea, isn't it?
That's the best way to do it, I think. Otherwise, it's really disconnected, and people aren't gonna get a good answer. But a lot, one approach is to be like, oh, here's this card, and it means this, and here's what this card is, and here's what it says. But it is kind of better to connect everything. And
Would this imply
I
that
don't know.
Was it better, do you think, for someone else for you to read your own tarot, or for someone else to do it for you who has no like biases?
I don't think either one's better or worse. I think it just depends on the situation and the question, and it's all situational. Like I've had, I think some of the most profound readings I've had have been just me doing a reading for myself, like under a in a ritual or spell. Because a lot of times if you have a stranger doing it, it's just like going to some shop somewhere, and you don't really know if that person knows what they're talking about. And you can be really
there's a lot of-
skeptical unless the reading's really spot on.
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
seen
I feel
some.
the same way. Usually, the best readings I've had, it's like it just pops into my head that I should do a reading with tarot or with runes. But I've had a couple professional readings before, but I'd never really felt any. Okay, when we lost our tarot reader, I had to like get a couple of readings from like interviewing like new tarot readers. So over like the course of like a month, I had my cards read by like a lot of people, and I don't know, there is just something that's kind of just depersonalized about it. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I didn't feel like any type of connection to any of those.
But I do think
people.
it is possible to find somebody that you connect to. Like I had probably a dozen readings from a dozen different people over the years before I found somebody like 2 years ago that is like, okay, you're a good reader and I like working with you, and now I get a reading from him, 2, 3, 4 times a year steadily.
That's true.
And
It could be
it's
that
like,
way with
okay.
astrology too. I have a good astrologer, Michael
Yeah.
Scotto, who I actually met through the Break the Rules podcast, but he's great. I talk to him like once a month.
And that's a good practice to do. I think it's no different than like seeing a therapist or seeing your accountant or whatever. It's
Yes.
a good idea to see it.
I'm sure
like,
it's
get your
better
cards
than
read.
seeing your therapist.
It's like literally therapy.
Which is
yes.
more fake, fucking tarot or astrology or goddamn psychology.
Oh,
Well,
God.
I've fired a lot more therapists than I've fired tarot
Those
readers,
people
I'll
are
put it that way.
worthless. Talk about
Yeah.
trying to divine something from someone that they don't even understand. Jesus Christ.
My problem is I'm just too stubborn, and I feel like I know more than all of them, and then I also like am paranoid, and I don't tell them everything. So it's like,
But
you're
that-
useless. You can't help me.
The fact is, you
Right.
probably are more intelligent, and that's why you're paranoid, and you're probably right to keep things from them. Like, that's my analysis, because I feel the same way, obviously. So
I
That's
mean,
always
when it
been
comes
how
to
I
like
felt.
IQ or whatever, sure, but it'd be good to at least go through that step of a therapist, so I can have them refer me to somebody better, to give me
God,
like a bunch of lithium every
sounds
month.
like a fucking nightmare.
I know
Like,
it is
I've
a
been-
nightmare. That's why
I've,
I haven't
like,
done
been-
it for like a decade.
When I was younger, my parents would always try to get me to do that shit. I could not, and I was a dick. I was a dick
Yeah.
when I went to see.
I don't want to do the talk about it stuff. Like that doesn't help
Me
me.
either. No, I'm exactly the same. I'm just like, just give me the medicine.
The
Just give me the
fucking
pills.
Adderall
Like,
already.
I know it's a chemical imbalance, so just cut to the chase. But the problem is,
Right.
you can't tell a doctor that because they're going to just be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, what are you chasing?" And now I'm at the phase where now I've lived here for a year, and I haven't even seen a new doctor, and I'm supposed to like. And my doctor I used to see like isn't seeing new patients, so I'm like, do I go through the hoops of trying to see him again, or find somebody else and start the whole mental health treatment cascade, or just say fuck it? So I just say fuck it and drink whiskey and smoke weed.
I feel that. I feel that for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna hit some weed right now.
I'm about to hit that Delta 8.
Yeah.
Don't recommend.
Let's hit that shit together. 1, 2, 3, go.